It's the start of the new year, and I'm sure you're probably feeling a little bit of pressure to have a few goals. Maybe your colleagues are asking you, what's your New Year's resolutions? Perhaps your family and friends are saying, what are your goals for this year? And it can feel uncomfortably pressurized to have something. So what we often do is we grab something from off the shelf. That could be to exercise more, to lose some weight, to read more books, or perhaps to take a few courses. But does that actually work? What I've discovered over the many years that I've been setting goals and failing more often than succeeding is that unless you are an Olympic athlete or a competitive golfer, perhaps you run your own business, goals are actually quite difficult to establish because, well, we've got a secure job, we've got a nice family, we exercise sufficiently, we eat relatively healthy, and yeah, we read a few books each year. So there's very little to actually motivate us or inspire us to actually set some goals for the year. But actually, having a few goals for the year is very helpful. Firstly, it gives you a focus. It helps you to focus on what's important. But then we end up with the question, say, well, what is important? What isn't going to be important in 2025? Well, this is where I think I might be able to help you. A long time ago now, I realized that there are 8 areas that we all share that are actually important to us. Now, these 8 areas are family and relationships, our health and fitness, our finances, our career or business if you run your own business, our lifestyle and life experiences, self-development, because we really should be moving forward and developing ourselves each year, month, day, our spirituality, we all have some form of that, and life's purpose. Now, life's purpose is a difficult one, and quite often you could be in your 40s or 50s before it suddenly hits you and says, that's the purpose of life for me. But the other 7 are things that you can do something about. Family and relationships. What does it mean to you? What do you need to do on a regular basis to keep that in balance? Now, I've done courses on the areas of focus. I even have a free workbook that you can download from my website, carlpolene.com. I'll put a note in the show notes below so you can download that. I won't be asking you for your email, so don't worry. But the important thing is that you first need to establish what is important to you. There's no good trying to pull off an off-the-shelf goal for the 2025 so that you can tell people, this is my goal, because that's how you're going to end up in I think it's 88% of people who will have failed on their New Year's resolutions or New Year goals by the 8th of February. That's just a statistic from Harvard University. I think it's 88%. Anyway, it's a very, very high percentage of people who are going to fail. But if you want to be in the 12% who never fail or don't fail on their goals, then really we have to go a little bit deeper as to establishing what is important to us. So what does your finances mean to you? Where are you today and where do you want to be by the end of the year? Similarly with your health and fitness, we're not talking about running marathons, half marathons or anything else like that. When it comes to health and fitness is perhaps the first step you need to do is go and get yourself a medical checkup. Find out what your blood sugar levels are. Find out whether you're pre-diabetic or not. Many people these days apparently are pre-diabetic. Then you can discuss with your doctor the best ways to move forward in order to avoid serious health issues in the future. And that may mean that you just need to add a 20-minute walk every day, perhaps cut out some of the less healthy food that you might be eating. So all these things can be established as goals for 2025. But the important thing is they're meaningful and they mean something to you. However, once you've established what is important to you, what it actually means, those areas of focus, so how do you define each one of those areas? And the next step would be, what do I need to do on a regular basis that's going to take me from where I am today to where I want to be on the 31st of December? And that's one of the best ways to actually accomplish your goals. Rather than saying, I want to get fit, which has no timeline, there's no real meaning behind it because, well, how do you define getting fit? What it means is you decide, okay, this is where I am right now. I am not happy with where I am right now. Where do I want to be on the 31st of December? Now, let's go back 15 years when I restarted running. I weighed 93 kilograms, which I'm not sure what that is in pounds, but it's probably getting close to 200 pounds. I was a heavy smoker and what we would describe as a binge drinker. So every Friday night we would go, when we finished work at 9:30 p.m, me and my colleagues would go to the nearest chicken bar, fried chicken bar. We would have fried chicken and drink copious amounts of beer until 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. Great times. I would never want to change that history. But the thing is I realized as I was about to get married that, well, I'm not in particularly good shape. So step number one, because it was the number one concern for me, was my weight. It wasn't the smoking, it wasn't the drinking. That was good times. What was really bothering me was my weight. I hated myself because of the size that I was. Now, this is just a personal thing. I'm not judging anybody here. So what I decided to do was, step one was, this is where I'm at, 93 kilograms. This is where I want to be at the end of the year, 83 kilograms. So I decided, in my case, that the best way to do this was to restart my running. So for that new year, and I think it was 2007 or 2006, I decided that every afternoon I would go to this local walking track and I would start off with run walk. And eventually, all being well, I would get to being able to run the complete circuit, which was 1.8 kilometers, which I think is about maybe 1.5, maybe just under 1.5 miles. So that's what I did. And I just focused on that one thing. But the great thing about that was it also had a direct contribution to my diet, because I realized that all this fried chicken on a Friday night and beer was not good. So I started reducing that. I wasn't going to go out as often as I did. But my main focus in 2007 was to get my weight down from 93 kilograms to 83 kilograms. And I think if I remember correctly, I got down to about 82 kilograms by the end of the year. And I was just focusing on one thing. And that's the thing, is where are you today? Where do you want to be on the 31st of December? That is the actual questions that you want to ask yourself. Now, some of those areas of focus you may be perfectly happy with. For instance, family and relationships. You may have a great relationship with your family. You spend time with your kids. You spend time with your partner. And you feel fine with that. Perhaps you're not feeling too comfortable with the number of books you're reading. You might not be reading anything. So what could you do to establish the habit of reading? I mean, we're not talking about reading an hour a day, maybe just 20 minutes a day. But what are you going to read? Are you going to read books? Are you going to read good quality journalistic articles from something, say, maybe The Economist or something more than just the tabloid newspapers? But your goals do not have to be big, massive, scary, huge things. We're just talking about making a few changes in those 8 areas that actually mean something to you. Because they mean something to all of us. Some of us are very spiritual. Some of us go to church or the synagogue or the mosque every week or every day. Some of us are less religious. But spirituality isn't just about religion. It's also about perhaps you want to have a better relationship with nature and maybe at least once a week getting out into nature, maybe go to the woods or to the river or somewhere quiet outside of the city where you can just let nature take its course with you and just relax. There's something going on in Korea, maybe other countries as well, called grounding, which is walking through the woods barefoot. It's -4 degrees, 5 degrees Celsius at the moment, so probably not the best thing to do right now, but I see a lot of people doing it, so I assume that but to me that is also a spiritual thing because you've got a direct contact with nature, with the earth. So you don't have to have big, scary, ginormous goals. Where are you today with your areas of focus? Are you happy with those areas? And if not, what do you need to do on a regular basis, either daily, weekly, or monthly, that's going to take you from where you are today to where you want to be on the 31st of December? Now, before I finish, there is one little tip I should give you. Don't go crazy. You're not going to be able to change all 8 of your areas of focus. Pick the ones that are the biggest concern for you right now. Something's going to be bothering you. It's going to be in your mind. Perhaps you're not organized as much as you prefer to be. Perhaps you are a little overweight and you want to do something about it. Or perhaps your relationships with your friends and family are getting a little strained because you're spending too much time at work. Those are the areas that you can look at and then decide what you need to do to make the changes, or as Tony Robbins would call it, close the gap between where you are today and where you want to be in the future. So don't feel pressurized into having big, impressive goals for 2025. You don't need them. Your inspiration and your motivation is always going to come from your areas of focus. So as I say, if you haven't done the areas of focus workbook at the very least, then you can go to my website, carlpauline.com, download the areas of focus workbook, and just spend the rest of the week going through that workbook and deciding what each one of those areas means to you and what you can do on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis to keep them on track. Those activities should be set to recur, and they should always be prioritized whenever they come up on your to-do list or in your calendar. If you want to learn more about setting goals in any year, then this video up here is the next video to watch.